You're listening to the All In Podcast with your hosts, Shane and Blake, giving you a new perspective on the dental industry. Are you ready to go all in?
Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this.
And welcome to the All In Podcast, the podcast that brings you a new perspective on life, liberty, and the pursuit of the dental industry. I'm your host, Shane McElroy, and I hope you guys are all doing really well out there. I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good myself. It's brutally hot here in Atlanta, Georgia, but you know what? It's sunny, and I've got a pool. So I'll be okay, and I hope you guys are doing okay too. Now, going to be a shorter episode today unless I ramble on, so 50-50 here. We don't know. We'll have to find out, but I really want to take some time to kind of talk about one of my biggest pet peeves that I've ever had and the importance of listening, right? And I think this can be applicable to really anybody at any time, at any position, right? So one of my biggest pet peeves ever was in my career, if I'd had an idea or had a suggestion or whatever, you take that to either your manager, upper management, or whoever, and you know, the answer might be no, right? Guys, I've got this great idea for this X, Y, and Z. Yeah, no, we can't do that. And that's it, right? Does that ever happen to you? Have you ever gone to somebody, maybe had an idea or a thought process, and the answer was just no, and that's it? How did that make you feel? Because for me, it was maddening. I cannot stand the word no. Now, the word no is unacceptable to me. But let me clarify. Without a why behind it, right? If you just tell me no because I said so, you're not my mom, you're not my dad, right? I catch myself doing this to my kids, and I have actually started explaining to them why I say no to them. And I think there's major importance in telling somebody the why. If people understand the why behind the no, then all of a sudden they won't be a problem. Because I'll be honest with you, in my earlier days, I would say that some people considered me a pain in the ass, especially if they were on the corporate side, and I had this, flawless idea, at least I thought it was. But the answer was no, and they didn't take the time or effort or energy to explain why. It was just, no, we can't do that. That's a problem, right? That makes me not like you. That makes me frustrated. That makes me not feel important because I'm not smart or important enough to know the why behind it. But however, those who would tell me the why, hey, Shane, that's a great idea. But let me explain to you why the answer is going to be no for now. And it's because, number one, because there's a budgetary issue. We don't have the funds for it. Or, while your idea is good, it may not be feasible for this reason, from a technical perspective. Or, maybe that's good in your market from a national perspective that would cost this much to invest in and this much time. And the ROI isn't there from a national perspective. Or compliantly, we just can't do it, right? Any of those reasons, I'm okay with a no. And what's funny about that is the people who thought it was difficult, just for giving me the no, all of a sudden, if they gave me the why, I was really reasonable. Oh, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. I understand. And I appreciate you taking the time in respect to explain the why to me. So for all of you out there, I would highly encourage you with all your teams. So whether you're a dentist, you're a manager, you're a sales rep talking to your customer, right? The transparency behind the why is incredibly important because I think it shows, number one, I respect you enough to take the time to explain it to you. I'm going to give you that time as well to explain it to you. But what also happens, you respect that person who tells you why more, right? You just do. You appreciate them for being honest and transparent and open with you and taking that time. So, number one for this episode, please, when somebody asks you and the answer is no, or even yes, tell them why you're saying yes too. The more that they can understand the philosophy behind whether your practice or your company or whatever that may be, it's important. It's important. It makes them feel more a part of what you're doing and the things that you're trying to accomplish. Now, the other thing that I find to be incredibly important is, well, let me start here. Everybody thinks that to keep your employees happy, it's important to, number one, just pay them more. Now, I would argue that money is very important, but it is not the most important thing. I think if you look at most of the research, what is the most important thing is recognition. So if somebody does a good job, you tell them why they did a good job. But I think what goes hand in hand with that is actually listening. Taking the time to listen. And it's actually really smart. If you are a manager, if you're an operator, an owner of a practice, start asking your people and be proactive with this, right? Because you ask somebody for their opinion. Like, let's say you have an assistant, right? One of many assistants in your practice. And you go to them and say, hey, I want to ask you what you think. How is it going? Am I doing a good job as a manager, giving them the permission to be, if you haven't read this book, Radical Candor, great book, just being open and transparent and telling you, giving them permission to tell you honestly and openly without recourse for the benefit of you, what you could do better, right? But also, hey, what do you think we could do better at as far as our workflows? What do you think we could do better at as far as communication with patients or communication with team? Hey, what would you enjoy from a team building aspect? And it doesn't really matter who it is in the company. Everybody appreciates giving their input, right? They start taking more ownership of the company, of the practice, of the group, or whatever. And that benefits you, right? Benefits you big time. When people take ownership of a situation, treat it as their own business, inevitably you're going to have better results across the board, right? And I got to be honest with you, if you're a doctor listening to this, or if you're an executive listening to this, who better to listen to than the people that are directly interacting with your end user, right? If you're a sales manager, who better to get the opinions of who's hearing the direct information from the doctors you're selling to or your clients that you're selling to than the salesperson that's interacting with them on a regular basis, right? And they might have some freaking great ideas that maybe you weren't privy to because you didn't ask and you didn't take the time to listen. And the same thing with if you're a doctor in a practice and, hey, it's all about the experience and the patient experience, not just the end result, right? You want to, listen, I just got a new deck. The deck turned out amazing. Spent a lot of money. But the experience itself was horrifying. So although I like the end product, working with that builder, I will never do again, even though the work was immaculate, because the experience was freaking awful. Now, you don't know that because you're not part of the entire experience as a doctor, right? You're the one clinically. Maybe you're doing the treatment planning. Maybe you're communicating that for a short amount of time to the patient, and then you're doing the surgery. But everything in between and everything before, you're probably not all the way involved with. So there's no way for you to actually know everything that's going on in that scenario or where you could do better. But there are people in your practice, in your company, who do know that. The ones that are directly working with the end consumer. Your front desk person, right? Your office manager. I think it's important at certain times to ask each person in the business on different aspects and make it not just across the board, but be specific. Hey, how could we do better in communication with the patient? How could we increase their case acceptance? What do you think, right? And their ideas might be absolute trash, absolute garbage, but there's still a benefit that comes out of it, right? And that benefit is that they respect you more and are probably going to be more loyal to you and think of you in a better light because you cared enough to ask their opinion and you took the time to listen. And I would bet that if you do this enough, you're going to pull out some real pearls. And if you implement those things and maybe even give that person who had the idea ownership and empower them to do whatever suggestion. So maybe somebody says, I think we could do better on social media by marketing it this way. Okay, I agree. Why don't you lead that project? What? The honor of leading that project, it may have no money tied with it, but the honor of that, them being able to build this idea that they had and actually turn it into a real thing is amazing. I love that, right? Like that's huge. And I don't know if I've been tricked over the years to lead a lot of different projects for no money, extra money. That's okay because for me, the reward simply was that I was excited that they had the faith in me to put that in my hands, that they believed that I could make it happen. And frankly, I love building things and being creative and projects in general. So there's a lot of benefits that come out of this, and it's very simple. It costs you nothing to ask an opinion and listen. So I would encourage you to do that tomorrow. And you don't have to do everybody at the same time. I think there's some times where it's good to have a group of people together. But that can be an issue too, because then it turns into maybe a complaint fest, and that's not what you're looking for. But I think if you get the individual and you make it very specific on what you're asking them, but their ideas, and you do that on a regular basis, man, set an alarm or put it on your calendar. Ask Kathy, ask Tom this today, ask them or that. If you make it a regular routine, you're going to, let's review what's going to happen. You're going to have more loyal employees because you're a better boss, because you're somebody who listens, right? They're going to take more ownership in the business as a whole because they're actually impacting it and their voice matters. You're recognizing them as being an important part of the practice because you simply asked, right? Their opinion counts. Again, their opinion matters. And that really can start a culture shift and a culture change in your practice and your business as a whole. So I would encourage you to do these two things, right? This can have a massive impact on the culture of your company and or practice by doing these two simple things. Asking people's opinions on specific things and listening to what they have to say, right? Now what happens after that? Hey, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that. Here, I want you to lead the project X, Y, and Z. Let's do that. So now you've just found a great idea, and now you're going to have them empowered to implement it. They're going to be stoked, and they're going to feel really important about it. Or worst case scenario, it's a terrible idea, right, for financial constraints or whatever, and you have to say no to the idea. It doesn't mean that's a bad thing. You took the time to listen. Hey, I appreciate that idea. I understand where you're coming from, but it's not something that we're going to do right now. But let me explain to you why, because it's important that you understand why, because it's important to me that you understand the business as a whole, and financially we can't do that, or, it's a great idea, but it's a little too robust. It's not really feasible. We don't have the staff or the team right now. Just give them whatever, just be transparent. Give them the why behind it, but say, hey, if you have other ideas, let me know. And I will also come back to you on other topics. So just because it's a no on this one, I told you why, doesn't mean it will be on everything. And you can take a negative response, which is that no, which you think that will break everybody. It only does if they don't understand the why. So super short episode today, but I just wanted to share that with you guys because it was on top of mind. Always give people the why. It's just so important, and it's respectful to do so, right? If you can compliantly tell somebody the why behind it, and you should be able to every single time for the most part, I absolutely encourage you to do so and see what kind of results you get with that, how it changes the mentality and people's perspective of you, right? And ask people their opinions and take the time to listen and see what comes out of that. And if you have some good experiences coming out of that, please share that with me. Go to do it on Instagram. That's a great, easy way to do it. all_in_podcast or at implantmba. And tell me that the great thing that happened because you implemented this tomorrow. Or tell me I'm an idiot and why it blew up in your face. I really want to hear that if that actually happens. I don't think it will, but I would encourage you to do these two things. And guys and gals, thanks so much for listening to this very short episode of the All In Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the All In Podcast. See you next time.